Welcome to the Transform Your Wedding podcast, a how-to guide for taking your wedding to a whole new level. Here's your host, Marie Kubin from Rent My Wedding.
Hey everyone, today we're talking all about spring wedding decor trends. I'll be chatting with Shannon Leahy. She is the owner of Shannon Leahy Events. With offices in California and Maryland, Shannon's firm has been recognized as one of the top wedding planning firms in the world by Martha Stewart Weddings, Harper's Bazaar, and more. So I can't wait to chat with Shannon and hear all about her tips and trends for spring decor. Hey, Shannon. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. Spring is finally here. And with that comes all these fun new wedding trends. So I can't wait to hear all of your advice about what's new for this season.
I know. I hope we have lots of weddings this spring. It's very much a question mark if we will or not.
Right? So if not this spring, we can at least start planning for next spring too.
It's evergreen content. People can enjoy this whenever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, so like most of my little trends that I have are for anyone getting married anytime, but I do have a COVID friendly one too for those listening this year to, tune into. Something I always love for spring is any kind of patterned chinoiserie is really hot right now, which is like floral, and it often takes like a print, like a fabric. Could be a wallpaper. Chinoiserie typically takes inspiration from sort of Chinese themes or even just Asian themes in general. They have like maybe bamboo or beautiful birds or flowers, and it's illustrated and things like that. Decor is one of my favorite inspirations. That is a wallpaper company. Our office is in San Francisco and they have a great boutique there. And searching them for inspiration, and Schumacher is another one that has great chinoiserie prints. I just find them to be so inspiring and really fun. It's a trend that's been going on for a few years in the wedding industry, but it's kind of reaching a fever pitch right now. And it's romantic, it's unique, and it can be used as inspiration and everything from your, a table runner or a tablecloth or a napkin or in any of your paper products, even like a backdrop. We've done chinoiserie panels behind cakes and in ballrooms, in frames. And to me, they're often very pastel and it just says spring. So
I love that. Yeah, and that's so unique too. I love it. That's something different that you don't see at every wedding, and there's so many different ways you can incorporate that into your decor, like you're saying, behind the cake table at the reception. Have you done this
on the cake itself even?
Ooh,
Sorry,
I love that. Have you done this at the ceremony as well? Is that something you're incorporating there too?
Yeah, I think we've had elements of it like in the program or in printed materials at the ceremony. I have yet to have done any kind of chinoiserie printed bridesmaid dress, but that could be so chic and really fun. Or like a beautiful ribbon on the bouquet, something like that. I think, that would be great. Chair covers would be kind of fun for the ceremony in a print. I don't know. That's the thing I love about when I'm designing a wedding. It's fun to decide what the elements are and then challenge myself to say, how many places can I use this color, pattern, material, texture, whatever. That's a really fun way. I find that like a lot of the editorial, like when Martha Stewart Weddings used to have their wonderful wedding magazine and they did editorials, they would often base it around, this is around marble print. How many ways can we use marble print? And like so much creativity comes out of that. And then you get a real cohesion in the decor. So.
Yeah, I love that. And that's what I love about wedding planners. You guys have so much creativity, and I love having you on the show so that you can share all that with our listeners. So good. What's your second big tip or trend for spring decor?
Sure. Well, spring is all about flowering branches. Generally wherever you are in the country, but certainly on the East Coast and in places, I'm close to DC, and the cherry blossoms in DC are just incredible. It's like iconic every year to go and visit those, and they're pink and girly and pretty. Yeah. And I think so many of our clients are like, I want flowering branches, and they're getting married in June or October. And you're like, okay, well, we could rent faux and maybe no one will know, but it's a different look. And they're like, well, I don't want that. And it's like, well, unless you're getting married in these 2 to 3 weeks in April and May, and we don't exactly know what those 2 to 3 weeks are, but we have a pretty good idea. It's really hard to get live flowering branches. So I love that about spring. And I think obviously one of the more, I say obviously, I don't know who most of your listeners are, if they're industry people or who are most of your listeners?
So we have couples, but then we
Yeah.
also have industry pros who are listening too.
Okay, so I won't say obviously in case it's not obvious to you, but one of the more common ways to use flowering branches is en masse. So just a tall vase with just filled with overflowing, almost like a tree of flowering branches. And that is so dramatic and gorgeous. So I love that, but I also think it can be fun, again, to think of unexpected ways to use them, whether it's tucking branches of them into existing arrangements or into a boutonniere as a napkin accent that's like sitting on the plate. Like, I mean, I don't know, I just get really excited about those and I think they're really fun. So that is something I love for spring. There's so many flowers in the spring that our clients see in magazines and want for their wedding, and they do have these short windows. So yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I love those ideas for how you can incorporate that, even if you don't hit that exact window when the flowers are in bloom. It actually reminds me of our rentals we have in our monogram lighting catalog. It's actually like a really beautiful blooming branches kind of design. So that's another way too.
I love that.
Kind of
Like a
jazz up the
gobo, like a
Mhm.
gobo that goes on the light. I might need that for a project I have coming up. Actually, I was looking for a good one of those.
There you go. Yeah, we've
Yeah,
had clients do
great
the
idea.
cherry blossoms and flowering branches. So yeah, that's another way. I just love lighting. Of course, I have to throw my 2 cents in, but I love the
Absolutely.
tip with the flowering branches.
Yeah, I mean, the gobo lighting can be so fun too, because you can do it in a very obvious way with colored lighting on a wall. And it's like, here is the gobo. But what I like to do is, use candle light tones, put it
Mm.
on the dance floor in like a more neutral, and then it just looks like this beautiful pattern. It's very subtle where you think, oh, that's a beautiful pattern. Then when you kind of actually look at it, you're like, oh, it's cherry blossoms,
Yeah,
but it's not as obvious. So there's like lots of ways you can use those for
yeah,
sure.
for sure.
That's
Good.
awesome.
So, what
Um,
about your third decor trend?
Okay, well, one of the hallmarks of our brand is kind of California, what do we say, West Coast, East Coast elegant meets West Coast cool. And
Yeah.
so we're on both coasts, right? So I'm in California and in Maryland. So one of the ways I love to bring kind of a California feeling into weddings wherever I am, and I love this idea for spring because it feels, just light and airy, is to bring raffia or sort of like a straw texture into the wedding. And that could be a light fixture that's hanging, that could be a charger plate, that could be a basket that the programs are held in, or trays where things are displayed. It can go beachy if you are too literal about it, but it doesn't have to. I feel like it can really be tied in to a lot of different looks. Certainly it wouldn't make sense in like a formal ballroom, but spring outside in the garden, something like that, it just kind of adds this more casual texture that I like to bring in, and brings a little of that West Coast California feeling if you're into that, into your spring wedding.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and especially texture. I think that's really cool to see how it's such an important part of the decor, as you want to make sure you have all different textures and adding interest. So
Definitely. Absolutely. For trend 4, I've got tented weddings because, one, April showers bring May flowers.
ooh, that's
It is
such a
a
good
rainy
point.
time of year, so we need to be thinking, if we're outside, which a lot of the weddings we do happen to be outside, we need to always be prepared with our rain plan, as possibly plan A even, depending on where in the country we are. And so I love tented weddings. They're also great during COVID, of course, to be outside and have that airflow. There's so many things you can do with the tent. So tented weddings for spring. Don't forget your rain plan tent. Not a decor idea necessarily, but a good one to think about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can dress up a tent to make it look like this really magical reception as well. So that's why I love to do it.
Absolutely.
It's easy from the rain, it's practical, but you can totally do it up and make it look gorgeous.
Absolutely. And you guys have so many good sort of like draping options if you did do a frame tent, that if you love the look of a ballroom, but you're trying to be more COVID friendly and you want to be outside, you could really make it look and feel however you want it to. It could look like a ballroom, or it could look
Right.
like a sailcloth tent, more natural and casual. So yeah,
Yeah,
love
for sure.
tents.
Definitely.
Um, And my last tip is another COVID friendly tip, but this is kind of cool, I think, because we're doing this year or planning, again, we have our plan A, our plan B, our plan Z for COVID, because we don't know what the restrictions are going to be yet. But one of the things that we're planning for, cocktail hours have become, or the cocktail reception, can sometimes be a COVID spreading sort of time. Everybody's mingling, they're drinking, they're eating, you're passing hors d'oeuvres on trays. It's just one of the more difficult times during the pandemic. So what we are doing or planning for with a few of our weddings are actually seated cocktail receptions. And I'm very excited to see how it goes. The idea is we will have sort of assigned seating, potentially by household or maybe just small groups of 4 or whatever that are comfortable. Ideally a different grouping, if it is a group, than the wedding dinner itself. And so it'll be assigned seating. A hostess or whatever will come and meet the guests and take them to their table. Maybe it's like a lot of the ones we're doing are like tall bar tables with bar stools, lounge furniture. So it's not like you're sitting at a table. It's just a little, and it's all different and varied as a typical cocktail hour would be, just that there's assigned seating. The waiters will be coming over, taking drink orders and bringing like a plate of hors d'oeuvres for the table. So I'm really interested to see how this goes. I think it's kind of a fun, different way to still have that cocktail reception feeling. We did a wedding this year without a cocktail reception in September because of COVID restrictions. And it was fine, except that we did miss the portraits time. We missed the whole photographer being able to get dinner details time, just a lot of the photo things that happened during that time, and just having that break between ceremony and dinner. So I'm excited to try out the seated cocktail reception this year. Have you seen one of those? Yeah, I know you're in Florida. In Florida, it's like anything goes, but in the rest of the country, it's a little harder.
Yeah, we're like, there's a pandemic? What?
I know, right?
Terrible, but I love the idea of the seated cocktail hour. Honestly, I think that could be one of those trends that, it happens in COVID, but then it just continues on, because I mean, people are on their feet all night long for the reception on the dance floor. So I think there's a lot of people who would love to just chill on the couch or have a cool like bar seating area and, have that kind of style instead of just having to be on your feet for another hour while you're, waiting for the reception to start. So I think that could be really cool.
I know. I'm excited about it. We'll see. I mean, on the one hand, I'm hoping we don't have to do it because I'm hoping the restrictions lift by May and when we have these plans in place. But on the other hand, I'm interested to see if it does go forward, what that feels like and how that is, because it could be a new trend for sure.
Yeah, and I love it. That's a great problem, solver right there. If you are having a wedding this spring, trying to be mindful of COVID, I think that really like checks all the boxes. You can still have your cocktail hour, but you're not as concerned about all of the dangers of your traditional cocktail hour. So
yeah, standing in line at the bar, all those things are just really close contact it's a close contact time.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just crazy to think all these little details that now, couples and planners are having to think about that you've never actually sat down and thought about those aspects of the wedding before. So yeah, I love that you're thinking about that and putting out these great ideas for how to address all of those concerns.
I know, it's wild. When this whole thing started, we were like, we don't know the first thing. Of course, nobody knew how it was transmitted in the beginning, so we really didn't know how to approach it. But I remember clients asking me, how can we have a safe event? And I'm like, nobody knows. We're all just figuring this out. And now I feel like we're sort of, by the time we get it all figured out, it'll be over, which is a blessing. I hope. Oh, man.
So hopefully we're back to weddings soon, but those are some awesome tips. And I love all of your decor ideas. And tell us more about you and your company.
Sure. So I started the company in 2009. I came from an event design background. And that's something that I really love and a big part of what we do. And so I have a team in San Francisco that works with me, and they all take on their own weddings. They're fabulous girls. We'd love a guy too, but currently just all female, girl power. We have 1 producer in LA and 3 in San Francisco. And now I am in Maryland, actually. So we've been rebuilding on the East Coast, or not rebuilding, I guess, expanding on the East Coast, make new friends, but keep the old. And I'm really excited about that. I'm also working on launching a podcast of my own in the next few weeks. So hopefully that will be up when this airs. I'm not sure when this is going live. So that's called Wedded, the Wedding Planner podcast. I'm doing it with my friend Tracy Taylor Ward. So Thanks for having me on because I'm learning all kinds of new, exciting tricks in this world. And you've been doing such a great job of it. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you. And yeah, your podcast sounds amazing. So I know it's geared towards wedding professionals. So everyone who's listening right now, if you are a wedding pro, make sure you check out her podcast and tell us too how we can get in touch with you.
Sure. My website is shannonleahy.com, ShannonLeahy. I'm sure you'll have show notes or links or something like that where you can put it. And on Instagram, it's Shannon Leahy Events. Those are the two main places you can kind of find us and get in touch with us.
Perfect. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for joining me. It was great chatting with you.
You too.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed all of those great ideas for spring wedding decor. And don't forget, you can catch all of our podcast episodes over at transformyourwedding.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you next time.
This podcast is brought to you by Rent My Wedding, your one-stop shop for event rentals. Order online and rentals are delivered right to your door. Shipping is free both ways nationwide. Rent lighting, backdrops, photo booths, and more. With the most 5-star reviews in the industry, Rent My Wedding makes rentals easy and affordable. Book your rentals today at www.rentmywedding.com.